Hey youth group, Troy here with another Wednesday night devotion. Tonight I want to talk to you about invisibility. Most of you have probably seen, I'm sure you've seen the Harry Potter films. In one of those films, the main character, Harry Potter, uses something called the Cloak of Invisibility. And he uses that cloak to sort of sneak around Hogwarts and find out some information that helps him and get him out of trouble, help others. I remember seeing that and thinking, man, that's pretty cool, dude. If I had a cloak of invisibility, I could sneak into the movies. I could sneak in to concerts. I could sneak into sporting events. I could sneak down hallways and hear people when they talk about me, or I could find out the scoop on all kinds of stuff. It'd be pretty cool. And most of us, when we think about invisibility, that's sort of how we think about it, in a cool context. But sometimes we feel invisible. It's a very bad thing. In fact, during this whole quarantine thing, I think many of us might feel more invisible than maybe at other times, because we're not out in the world interacting with people and going to practices and after-school activities and all those types of things. So instead, we're home using social media and connecting with one another through a lens, or through Instagram or Twitter or TikTok, whatever social media app you use. But even before this quarantine, some of you may have felt invisible already, walking the halls at school or even the halls at church, where you just feel like people don't see you. That's a tough thing, to feel invisible. Now, whether you feel invisible now or whether you felt invisible before, most of you, if not all of you, can relate. At some point, all of us have probably felt invisible to others. And that's what I want to talk about tonight. I have some advice and some scripture that I want to give you to help us think about those times when we feel invisible. The first piece of advice that I would give to you is, when we're feeling invisible, it helps to focus on He who is invisible. Sometimes when we're feeling invisible, it's because we're focused on the wrong things. No matter how many likes we have or how many comments we have, there's always someone else who has more likes and more friends and more comments. When we think we put up a cool picture or a funny joke, there's always someone else who has a better meme or a better joke or a better whatever. And if we're focused on how we are measuring up compared to others, we're always going to be let down. So our focus shouldn't be on this frame of reference that we have with the entire world. Our frame of reference should be with God. If we are focused on the invisible, then things are a little bit easier when you think about it. Which leads me to my second piece of advice, and that is, God knows everything about you. So if God knows everything about you, your deepest, darkest secrets, everything that you've done wrong or just kind of nasty about, and He still loves you, still values you, then that's a much healthier place to get our visibility, our love, our value, our appreciation from God. The third piece of advice that I would give you is when we're feeling invisible, if we focus on helping someone else who is also feeling invisible, then that is something that helps us become visible. Let me explain that. When we see someone who we can tell just needs an attaboy, a pat on the back, hey, hey, how you doing? I like this picture. I put a little comment here. Anything that we can do to help someone else who's feeling invisible to feel visible, there's a real joy that comes with that. There's a happiness that we get when we help somebody out. I mean, think about it. Don't you sleep better at night when you've done something cool for somebody and you feel like they've appreciated it? It makes you feel good. So the more we focus on other people who are feeling invisible, and the more that we do to help lift them up, to love them and appreciate them, the greater the joy in our own life is, the greater our visibility would be. So I'm not suggesting that we help others because of some ulterior motive, selfish motive, to lift ourselves up. But if we stop focusing on ourselves and instead we focus on God and others, we're going to feel better, and we're going to feel more appreciated, more loved, and honestly, what everybody else thinks won't matter as much because we're focused on the right things. Here are some scripture verses that I'd like to share with you. I've got some cue cards over here to help me remember them. The first one is 2 Corinthians chapter 4, verses 17 and 18. And it says, "For our light and momentary troubles are achieving for us an eternal glory that far outweighs them all. So we fix our eyes not on what is seen, but on what is unseen. Since what is seen is temporary, but what is unseen is eternal." Now, Paul was obviously talking about, the suffering that he was enduring for going out and preaching the gospel of Jesus Christ. It's still good advice for anyone who is feeling troubled or feeling invisible. That if we focus on God who is invisible, then again, our joy comes from God and His appreciation for us instead of our comparisons to other people. Second piece of scripture is Hebrews 12:2, which basically says that we should fix our eyes upon Jesus. Again, Jesus is God. God who is invisible sends Jesus who is visible. And so we know who God is because He made Himself visible through Jesus. So when we think about it, even God at one point must have felt sort of invisible, that He would want to be seen by us, by the creation that He loves. So He sends Jesus. And what did Jesus do? He also helped everybody else. And when He was helping everybody else, it made God more visible. We were able to see Him through Jesus because of that. So if we take that advice and we help others and lift them up and make them visible, the same thing that happened with God and Jesus could happen with us. Last piece of scripture is Colossians chapter 1, verse 15. And it says, Christ is the visible image of the invisible God. Again, God the invisible sends Jesus to make God visible. It's a beautiful thing, wonderful thing when we think about it. I hope this is encouraging for you, especially this time while we're in quarantine. I hope you are visible. I hope you feel like you are visible to us, your church. We love you. We cannot wait to get back together and see each other and catch up on all the stuff that we've been missing. Oh, and also, in regard to the cloak of invisibility, now that I'm older, made my own. Check it out. Here you go. Gryffindor. Okay. Now to make myself invisible. Here we go. I'm still here. I'm just invisible. Oh, wait. One thing. Sometimes we feel invisible, but sometimes we have actual depression. And depression is something it's an actual psychological disorder. It's nothing to be ashamed of. But if you're a person who not only feels invisible, but you just feel flat out depressed, then please talk to your parents about it and try to get some real help. Myself, Sarah, we would love to hear from the youth group. If you guys are going through anything that you want to talk about or hear advice or just hear a friendly voice, to have someone to listen to you, we're here. Love to talk to you. All right, youth group. Love you. See you later.